Just as I'm getting over the shock of my wife's affair, I found out she's pregnant by her affair partner. What now? My wife, 26 female, and I, 29 male, pretty much have not had sex since COVID started. Mostly because 2 months into it, I lost my job as an office manager at a small business. There were no other jobs hiring as much as hospital jobs, so I made the decision to become a janitor at a hospital. The steep drop in income, as well as that I'd be working in the front lines, made my wife tell me she can't bear to touch me at all. I ended up making the decision that because my dad had an empty room above, a detached garage, that for the time being, I'd go to work and then go home to my dad's garage with its separate entrance, so I wasn't putting anyone at risk. I thought things were going okay. My wife and I had a 3-year-old daughter together, and I'd FaceTime her whenever I could. But my wife started getting distant and asking if I could pick up another job because our finances were still so tight. She was disappointed when I asked. I didn't think I could find any. And the people in the hospital were telling us that overworking ourselves would really doom us if the virus happened to be incubating inside of us. I would call my wife and she started just not answering my calls until later. I was the most alone I'd ever been, but I thought that at least my wife seemed to be okay since she was posting about having Zoom while in cheese at night or a virtual board game night with her friends pretty much every night on her story. Slowly, though, my FaceTime calls would be reduced to a few quick words with my wife before she put the phone on my daughter. I came home around fall of 2020. However, my wife said she'd rather I sleep in the guest bedroom and keep the most of my activities restricted to that area. So basically, from that point all the way to March, I would spend most of the time at home in my separate room, and only my daughter would sometimes come in. I started suspecting something suspicious when my wife would just leave the house for long periods of time. Also, I saw discarded price tags of expensive clothes and other stuff that I knew we wouldn't be affording on my salary. She leaves her iPad open one day, and I see a trail of money transfer via Zelle from the same person. She finally admits to the affair but phrases it as she was in total survival mode. I sarcastically said that I had hoped of into the sunset like you were going off to war, and I was supposed to wait at the windows grill for you. After our blowout argument, I go to my dad's house to blow off steam. When I got back home, my daughter was up already, but my wife was sleeping. She was clearly upset and could sense we were fighting. We went to counseling, and my wife told me some legitimate issues she was having, namely the panic attacks and the thought of getting coronavirus and being a single mom to our daughter. 2 weeks ago, since our last session, and my wife starts feeling sick. During therapy, we had promised each other an open phone policy if either of us felt uncomfortable because she also said that she cheated because she was thinking I could have easily also had an affair. I felt she was being sneaky again, so I asked if I could see her phone. She then said that she needed to talk to me. She wrote the news that she took 2 pregnancy tests and went to the doctor when I was at work, but the father in the text reflect that it's a foregone conclusion that the baby isn't mine. I didn't want to come face to face with the other man, but my wife said that he wants to be part of his kid's life. Maybe my wife and I are both white, and the other man is African American. And the other man says that he's the only one who can impart in the kid the other half of his or her identity. After I told my family, they all said that eventually my daughter was going to ask questions, and there was no way to brush this one under the rug. They were blowing up about the fact that I was going to have a physical representation of my wife's infidelity around me and begged me to leave her. But my wife had said previously that if I tried to leave her, I would just end up breaking my daughter's heart. And in the past few days, I've been bombarded by assumptions that I will be racist towards the child, especially from the birth father. This has not done anything to my view that every person is equal, and it brings me that people think just because this awful thing of infidelity I experience involved a black man will soon involve a biracial baby, that I'm racist. I will never be anything but affectionate to the kid. I will honor the child as my daughter's sibling, but I don't think I can stand my wife anymore. I don't think I can stand being around her because every moment is always anger and stress for me. Like how this baby she wants to have is coming, but I don't see how I could be in the delivery room when the father wants to be there. I don't know what to tell my daughter who knows that I'm very upset right now. I can barely afford to make rent for our family, yet she was out spending some other guy's money on her own comfort items. Do I stay and allow the father to start paying for expenses related to the baby? Do I have to let him visit the house now or talk to him? I don't think I can do either. My wife said that the affair ended, but now their relationship will never end. But my daughter is a very astute and will be seeing how I handle this. And part of me still remembers the things that made me fall in love with my wife. But I hate to say that I would have forgiven her if she wasn't pregnant. I'm sorry. I don't hate the kid or anything, but this just made everything so much more complicated. I am at loss of how I will leave.